All right, buckle up because what you're about to hear will chill you to the bone. We're diving deep into one of the creepiest parts of London's past, the London Necropolis. If the name alone doesn't send shivers down your spine, just wait. Picture this: Victorian London, overpopulated, dirty, and drowning in death. Cemeteries were overflowing and the dead literally couldn't stay buried. But what did Londoners do? They created an entire city of the dead. Yeah, that's right, a necropolis. First off, let's talk about the Victorian era. It was a time of huge change in London. People were flocking to the city in droves looking for work, and with more people came more death. And guess what? London didn't exactly have room for all these bodies. Cemeteries were packed, graves were being reused, and sometimes bodies didn't even stay buried for long before they were dug up again to make space for the next one. Gross, right? This is where things get really creepy. People started reporting that they were seeing bodies being exhumed, bones being stacked up, and worse. There were rumors of the dead coming back to haunt the living. Imagine walking down the street at night and hearing whispers, seeing shadows that shouldn't be there. That's what people claimed. So what did the city do to deal with this death crisis? Enter the London Necropolis. This wasn't just any cemetery. This was a massive city for the dead, designed to be the final resting place for Londoners. But it wasn't located in London. Nope, it was built far away from the city in Brookwood, Surrey. Why? Well, the idea was to keep all the death and disease far away from the living. Here's the kicker, though. They built a train to transport the dead. Yup, the London Necropolis Railway ran from Waterloo Station carrying coffins and mourners to the necropolis. Imagine boarding a train with your loved one's coffin, heading out of the city, knowing you were taking them on their final journey. The eerie part? People started saying they saw strange figures on these trains, figures that weren't supposed to be there. Let's talk about this railway for a second. People who worked on the train started reporting weird stuff. They said they'd see figures walking through the train cars, even though they knew for a fact the trains were empty. Others claimed they heard voices whispering in the tunnels at Waterloo Station, voices that didn't belong to anyone alive. One of the most famous stories is about a railway worker who was locking up one night. He swore he saw a man standing on the platform, dressed in old Victorian clothing. When the worker called out to him, the figure just vanished into thin air. After that, he refused to work the late shift ever again. Now let's get to the real juicy stuff. The ghosts of the necropolis itself. Brookwood Cemetery is massive, over 500 acres of graves. People say it's one of the most haunted places in the UK. And after hearing some of these stories, you'll understand why. There's the tale of the White Lady, a ghost that's been seen wandering the cemetery for over a century. She's often spotted near the mausoleums, dressed in a flowing white gown. Witnesses say she looks lost, like she's searching for something or someone. Some say she's looking for her child who died young and was buried somewhere in the necropolis, but no one knows for sure. Then there's the Black Nun. This one gives me chills. She's been seen walking the rows of graves late at night, her face hidden under a black veil. People say if you get too close, she'll turn towards you, but you won't see a face, just darkness. And those who've seen her up close say they feel an overwhelming sense of dread, like something bad is about to happen. Now here's something that really makes the hairs on your neck stand up: the forgotten graves. See, over time, many of the graves in the necropolis have been abandoned. Families moved away, records were lost, and graves were left untended. And according to legend, the dead don't like being forgotten. There have been numerous reports of strange occurrences around these neglected graves. People have heard knocking sounds coming from the ground, as if the dead are trying to get someone's attention. Others say they've seen shadowy figures standing by the graves, just watching, as if they're waiting for someone to remember them. Part of what makes the London necropolis so creepy is the Victorian obsession with death. These people were into mourning. They wore black for years after someone died, kept locks of the deceased's hair, and even posed for photos with dead relatives. Yep, dead relative. But they were also superstitious. Victorians believed in all kinds of creepy stuff to do with death. They thought that if you didn't properly mourn someone, their spirit could come back to haunt you. People would hang mirrors in their homes to avoid seeing the reflection of the dead and stop clocks in the room where someone had died to prevent their spirit from getting trapped in time. So, is it any wonder that places like the London Necropolis became a hotbed for ghost stories? It wasn't just the ghost that made the necropolis creepy, it had a dark history too. There were rumors of bodies being sold to medical schools for dissection, and stories of grave robbers digging up fresh corpses to sell to the highest bidder. There was even talk of secret societies using the cemetery for strange rituals at night. Some say you can still find evidence of these rituals if you know where to look, though I wouldn't recommend going looking for yourself. Even today, people report seeing ghosts in Brookwood Cemetery. Visitors have heard footsteps following them, seen figures moving between the graves, and felt cold spots where the air just seems to drop in temperature for no reason. Paranormal investigators have picked up strange readings in the cemetery, and some have even claimed to capture ghostly figures on camera. One of the creepiest modern stories comes from a woman who was visiting her grandmother's grave. She said she saw a man standing a few rows over, just staring at her. When she glanced back a second later, he was gone. But here's the freaky part. She swore he looked just like her grandfather, who had died decades earlier and was buried in the same cemetery. So, there you have it, the terrifying secrets of the London Necropolis, a place born out of necessity where the dead were supposed to find peace, but instead they seem to have stuck around to remind the living of their presence. From ghostly trains to shadowy figures, haunted graves, and eerie superstitions, the London Necropolis is a chilling reminder that sometimes the past isn't as buried as we'd like to think. If you ever find yourself in Brookwood Cemetery, remember to keep your eyes and ears open. You never know who or what might be watching you.